religion. So, I have a very complicated relationship with religion. It's very emotion-based rather than actual tangible thoughts I could put into words very easily. But it's something that I think, it shapes the world and it shapes individuals, and in more ways than maybe they would know until they have left it or have really come into their own understanding of what their relationship is with spirituality. Whether that be heavy faith or a more open to interpretation, or perhaps just a vague non-belief. I think that's, it's so individual. I think that's what bothers me, but also not what bothers me, but is hard to explain, I guess, more than it bothers me. It bothers me that I can't explain it, I guess. It's just a very subjective thing. That's the word I'm looking for, subjective. It's very subjective, and I think people care too much about what others believe. That's pretty much what I've got into at this point. It's what I've decided on. Mostly due to probably my upbringing. I think it's really weird that religions try to convert you in the ways that Christianity tries to convert you. I prefer you can believe it if you don't. This is what I believe. You can learn about it if you want, but there's no pressure to believe that what I'm saying is true, and I'll be happy for you either way, as long as you're happy, I prefer that approach than to the evangelical approach I was exposed to. I wouldn't say raised in. My mother was religious. My father isn't overly religious. I'm not really sure what he believes. I know he doesn't really like organized religion, though if he does go to a church, he would prefer to go to a traditionalist one than a New Age style, Baptist, fundamentalist. My mom went through periods of extreme religiosity and into periods of very little religiosity. So religion played in my life a little bit. It was a small town, pretty much like any small town in Canada, with a lot of different religions, but all Christianity based. There's nothing else. And so the culture was very Christian. You pretty much figured everybody believed in that, so there wasn't really much to question about it. And I did VBS every single year. Now, my personal religiosity during my childhood was constantly hoping I didn't go to hell and fervently asking Jesus into my heart because I didn't want to go to hell, and I was worried it didn't take the first time. Pretty much. Also, as I got older, I chased this unknowable feeling that it seemed like everybody else felt but me at religious services. I just kind of felt like they were a chore. And I didn't really get it. And I struggled to have any sort of personal relationship that other people seem to have. There was coincidence, sure, but nothing in my life that seemed to point to a grand one single creator in the way that it seemed to for everybody else. Not that I didn't believe it, but I didn't think I believed it enough, would be how I would phrase it. It's not that I didn't believe it, it's just I didn't think I believed in it enough. And that concerned me mostly into trying to force myself to believe it more and to be more of a good Christian TM. That was like the most lackluster thing. Lackluster expression, I guess. And so, you know, that was a thing that I lived through and I didn't really care for. And as I got older, it became, you know, harder and harder to keep it going, and I kept forcing myself to be in it. And I had always had a fascination when I was growing up with like First Nations religions, animal-based religions, ancient religions. Those were always interesting to me. And I was very much a believer in like fairies. Even when I stopped believing them, I still held the same beliefs, and I would still, like, I used to make tennis courts for the fairies, or like little fairy areas for them to play in when I was a kid. And it wasn't that I didn't, when I stopped believing them, that I didn't believe in them. It's the same way I feel now. It's like, I just don't know. They could be there. I also kind of have like this feeling that most religious figures are probably interdimensional beings that we only see a part of. So it's like, this is where I am now, where I have this kind of like vague belief system, and I'm exploring religions. Like I would say probably now that I'm pretty much pagan. We're just gonna try this one out and see how it feels. I don't feel a lot of the horrible pressure to like feel a certain way because I have no expectations. And I know there's no expectations upon me to be having a specific type of feeling or to act a certain type of way. So I think that's what is really appealing to me. I also fundamentally disagree with a lot of things that are within the Bible, so it was pretty easy for me to go, nah. Like, Jesus, he's okay in some parts, but then in some parts he's kind of like a dick too, if you read it through a modern lens especially. But even through a past lens, it's like when he curses the fig tree because it didn't have figs, it's like, and you're the all-powerful creative universe. And then Old Testament, there's just no making that genocidal maniac look good. And actually it's interesting too because the Bible like doesn't say that there isn't any other gods, and in especially older translations you can find references to specific ones. So, you know, I have a lot of like bulk knowledge, but I couldn't pull out any sources or vague stories in my head right now. I'm not very good on the fly. But I've done a lot of research in any case. I'm pretty much not down with the Christianity. Now my family is very religious and I haven't really spoke to them really much about it. My siblings sure, because they're about all agnostic or questioning. None of them are very Christian. I think I got the worst of it because I'm the oldest. So yeah. Now I practice as a pagan currently. I got some pagan icons for myself for Christmas and for my birthday this past year. It's kind of like this is my first year starting around my birthday where I'm finally just gonna like go whole hog and I'm gonna like leave Christianity completely behind. For the past 2 years it's been like a pulling myself out of the mire, and it's been really hard because there's just a lot of messed up stuff that just gets tossed in your brain hole. So yeah, now I'm that pagan, practicing heathen, Celtic, eclectic, pagan. Whatever those words mean to you, you can decide. And I'm having a very good time. Currently, the deities that I'm kind of open to, I always light a candle for all of the gods. That's just what I do. I just do it as like I remember you, and if you're interested in reaching out, reach out. If you're not, that's fine too, but I'm just remembering you in the most capacity I can, or like the spirits of the land, that sort of thing. I've always felt very connected to like land itself, especially the land that I'm currently in Canada, like very spiritually connected to it ever since I was a child. Like that's something I always felt very connected to nature and animals, horses especially. Can't wait to buy my own this year. The deities that I'm specifically speaking to or like experimenting with are Freya from the Norse pantheon, Nyx from the Greek pantheon, though she's a new addition, Bregan from the Celtic Pantheon. I was really interested in her after I started reading Pretending to Brigid's Flame, which I haven't finished yet, but it's pretty good. Brigid, I don't know, however you say it. I believe it's Brigid. And Hel. She's not really, I feel very connected to Hel because she was a goddess that I saw when I was practicing like vision seeking, whether it's just my conscious or whether it's actually me seeking something out. That bears to be known. It's my own personal thing how I feel about it, and you can decide for yourself. It doesn't really bother me if you think it's fake. Like, I'm in this weird space where I'm like, well, it could be fake, but also I choose to believe it's real. Something I believe, not something I know. Scotty, who's new, very new, but a very strong connection, especially with winter lasting so long here. I feel very connected to her. I have some like so those first ones I listed out, those are like the main four. The rest of them, like, I have different icons on my altar, like the cat candle is Freya, and then I have a statue of Hel right now. I have a statue of Scotty. I have a statue of Bridget coming in the mail. I used to use this little mouse to represent Bridget because it was a little mouse carrying a pumpkin, and then Scotty was a little bear with the fish. That's still on my altar. I kind of used the animals totems that I have on my altar now to just kind of represent the spirits of the land, because I feel like those are spirits that are very strong in this land. We see a lot of foxes, we see a lot of moose, we see a lot of deer, we see a lot of bears, like very strong here. The outer ones, the ones that aren't as common, I guess, would be the like Loki. Once in a while I will specifically talk to him. Odin, I usually every single time light a candle for him, but I'm not like, he's not like somebody I reach out to often. I feel a connection to him, but it's more of something where I'd come to him if it was like something big, if that makes sense. Like, it's not some I don't bother him every day type thing. It's weird, but I have that feeling. And then so Loki, Freyr, Odin, Thor on occasion, but usually I just like, if I was gonna use Thor, it would be for like physical strength. And I kind of already use Freya and Scotty for that as a female. Like, I just feel more connected to a female deity for that. So like Thor is not somebody I really am concerned with. Njordor just for travel. And that would be it. Or Njord. I probably butchered the names. I've really only read them. And like, I've heard them in videos, but I can never remember pronunciation. I'm terrible with that. I usually remember my bad pronunciation, not the real one. And I didn't look it up because this was spur of the moment. But anyway, that's a little bit about my spiritual history. I'm very happy where I am now, and I'm continuing to look through it, and we will see where I am in like a year, and I'll update it. Okay, bye.